Welcome to another fascinating audio lecture on magic and the ritual process. Something that is very misunderstood and needs to be clarified by everyone. I'm here with my prize student. Say hello.
But another time, back to my meditation will I go.
Yes, Yoda is busy and going back to his meditation right now. One of the major misunderstandings is, we tried to cover this somewhat, and I guess it's going to turn out into a very large volume of work and a lecture series on what rituals can do, how magic works in real life. Now, as I always say, magic really is all about manifestations. What can you create? What can you manifest with it, whether that is physical or spiritual? And that's important to understand that entire process that's involved in it, what can and can't be done, whether you're doing rituals for yourself or having rituals done for you by the guild. And of course, this whole area is clouded with the garbage perpetrated by occult frauds, movies, and ignoramus authors who claim to be experts who are nothing more than writers. They're basically writer researchers that have read somebody else's information and then put it together in a book that they claim is more factual when it's just nothing more than a research book. So, it's very difficult for people to understand that. And while there is that potential in magic to literally create anything, things don't pop out of the air. This isn't IG Genie. You don't tweak your nose and something pops up in front of you. There is no such thing as rubbing a lamp or rubbing a ring and then manifesting spirits. These are analogies basically for the masses of ignorant buffoons written by authors to entertain and to titilize, when it really was an analogy to state a ritual process. So, when in the ancient books they said rubbing a lamp or having a ring and a spirit, that basically meant doing a complicated ritual which involves many, many steps to manifest these types of energies. But somebody certainly who's listening to this or hearing it in a pub or in a public place or being entertained by a minstrel certainly doesn't want to get a how-to guide on doing practical magic. They want to hear the stories and the excitement. And this hasn't really changed much with the general public, who are fed on really a bunch of stooges out there making funny videos and garbage books, claiming how powerful they are when you really get down to it. They've achieved absolutely nothing but take money from you. They have no training behind them. They have nothing to show for their success, and they make up one story after another why they actually have nothing, because they don't want it because they can get everything. So they live in an apartment in Phoenix somewhere and say they love the devil. So the whole idea is that all these failures and their worshipping minions have achieved nothing and will achieve nothing. They are losers. They are no positions of powers or anything. So they know actually nothing. But besides that, how magic works is a complete process. Now, there is another audio that you must listen to, and that's really how the empowerment of magic works in general on you personally. And you need to understand that. But the one thing you have to understand is when you're trying to manifest something, and we cover a lot of this in the booklet, What Can I Manifest? And there will be extensive lectures on this as well. To give people an idea of how magic works. And it doesn't work by the fact that you want $1 million, so you do a ritual and $1 million, and then someone knocks on your door. And I call this the knock on the door principle.
Mr. Smith, this is the magic delivery boy. I have a pot of gold for you. You last night did a ritual, used an occult oil, and here it is. Has your name on the side of it with your address here.
while you're sitting on the couch, of course, this happens sitting on the couch, watching TV, drinking beer, and eating pizza. And of course, that has been proven to achieve greatness. Matter of fact, in every book that I've ever read of great men, it all came down to the fact of sitting on the couch, watching TV, and eating pizza and drinking beer. As a matter of fact, I believe this is the oldest form of magical ritual known. So, understanding the way it really works is that it doesn't manifest in that particular fashion. Now, manifesting must generally come down a channel that is already channeling that type of energy, where you then pop into that channel and then are able to draw out of that channel, which is already manifesting a certain reality, and you are able to pull out what you desire from it at the highest possible level. Where normally, if you entered that channel, which could be investments, a dating club, you would generally get poor to zero results. But when you empower what you do, you get high results. But it doesn't come from anywhere. You're actively participating in that channel. You're investing. You're meeting people. If you do this normally, kiss your money goodbye, and you better like old hags, because that's what you're going to end up with. So the whole idea is that when you change that reality and you empower what you're doing, you're going to be successful. You're going to make money. It may be a little, it may be a lot, and it may take time as you build energy. The same thing if you use this to meet people. You meet a much higher grade and better people, and that's how it works. Now, that's if you do something from the beginning. One of the big problems with people, particularly who try and do rituals because of personal situations, usually relationships or serious other issues, is that they're trying to fix something that is irreparably broken. You cannot do this. You cannot take a drug addict and use magic and make him into a person who no longer craves the drugs. You can't take a self-centered moron who doesn't love you and make them love you. You can't take a person who is a player, who is uncommitted, who's 40 or 50 years old, and make them adore you and want to marry you. You don't change people's personalities. It's impossible. If it was able to be done that, then the people with that kind of power would be running the world, and their fees would be millions. How many super rich people would pay for their children to be taken off of drugs, or rich people in general, which are numerous drug addicts because they have the time and the money? It doesn't work that way. Plain and simple. You cannot change people's personalities. You can push and prod, you can direct them, you can collapse the rest of the world around them so they only see you as their possible answer for their problem. But these kind of people will not take advantage of it. That is their lifestyle. You're not going to change somebody's lifestyle. So if they're an abuser, if they're a cheater, if they're a player, if they're whatever, a slut, a gigolo, whatever you want to call it, that is their lifestyle, and you will not change that. You can break up one relationship and they'll be in another if they're cheating on you. If they're kind of people that you're not going to keep them at home because you do a ritual on them, yes, you can work on that, and it works to a certain extent, but that will not continue to work. They will continue to do what they do, which is their lifestyle. This is what they are. This is how they act. You're not going to change the core person there of that situation. So it's very important to understand that if you're seeking core changes in people who have virtually are complete and total destructive imbeciles that you want to then bring into your life, it will not work. And there are spirits attached to all work, and these spirits do not allow for you to manifest in your life bigger problems than you already have. So if you want to bring in an abuser, a loser, a cheater who's going to continue to do that into your life, and you want the privilege of living with them, or maybe they'll marry you, that is not going to happen. That's not a reward. That's a psychotic punishment. And magic will not do that for you. These are part of the universal laws of magic, of manifesting in your own life, basically cursing yourself. Now, you can attack other people and cause problems in their lives. This will not change that person. It just causes them problems. It takes their already inner person who's already maybe self-destructive or a drug addict or whatever, and these people will act up in many ways and destroy themselves. But you're not going to change them. You can't change them into something else. So that's very important to understand that, particularly with many people who are working on magical situations for rituals, for relationship rituals. And it's critically to understand that the personality of that person will not change. If he refuses to only be with you and he constantly cheats, this will not be changed. You can stop it for short periods of time. You can break him up from girlfriends, but that does not change the situation that this is this person's lifestyle and that this person is not happy with you. It is not going to change that situation. You cannot force anyone to love you. Plain and simple is that magic will not make pigs fly. Plain and simple. It don't work that way. It's all fantasy for these people that claim to do all these things, and you see them in papers and everything else, bring back lost love in 2 days. It's all complete lies and fraud. Just like the fantasy rings on eBay that bring you lust spirits and everything else. It's hard to believe that these kind of people get away with these things, but there's an awful lot of criminal money laundering going on as well, particularly on those sites that portray and have these haunted products, which they found a gullible and stupid audience of people that paid literally hundreds to thousands of dollars for things that are completely and totally worthless. You have to wonder, anyone who could create such great and powerful things, why would they be public whatsoever and do that? It amazes me to think that people need to make money, or that's the way they would make money. If they were so powerful to manipulate everybody they could, it doesn't make sense. Now, everybody wants to buy into the delusional reality that that somebody is going to be changed because they want it to happen by the use of occult power. And generally, these kind of radical changes to change the inner essence of somebody is not possible. The whole idea is to make sure you don't get involved with losers and self-destructive people, and that's how real magic works. Real magic means you empower yourself from the beginning, make sure you bring in good people, and then you don't have these kind of problems because you've filtered them out using the empowerment process. Once you get a broken toy, you need to throw that toy away. It's no good. It's broken. Trying to glue it together doesn't work. Like most glues, they maybe last for a day or two and the toy is broken yet again. And such is the case with magic. Magic cannot make pigs fly. And everyone has to be very understood of that concept and understanding the way magic works, particularly when it comes to intrinsic traits of things. This also is the case with a lot of things that are broken. Even in the more direct areas where you have to do with businesses and ventures that you're in, that you're trying to get something out of, a lot of times you cannot make things work past a certain level. Even if you're empowering a business, there may not be enough business out there. We've done this often. I've done it myself, even with different businesses, that you bring all the business that you can possibly get to you, and then there is nothing left. There is an endless business out there in a lot of different businesses, depending on what it is. If you're a relatively local business and you're drawing on local energies, like a store or something, or some sort of based local business where you don't have an international clientele or even a national clientele, You can't bring in endless amounts of new customers. They don't exist. You will grab what's ever out there that will sustain you for a period of time, and then your tank is empty. So you've got a broken business, and you have to throw it away. There's no way of saving it. So it's really what you can grasp and understand in the bigger picture of life, because magic doesn't work outside of you. You're trying to manifest within your in this regular reality, and you have to conform to what's happening there as well. That's part of it. There isn't endless anything. You need to be able to understand when you have reached a point where you have to start empowering something else. Now, that may be a new person you meet, or energies to find a new person you meet, or energies to start a new business and empower that business. So you've got to understand when you are beating a dead horse. And most people don't quite understand this because they are tied into silly emotionality of being stuck on a particular individual. And this individual is totally worthless. They do not love you. They treat you like crap, and you still want them. The problem here isn't the other person. The problem is you want to mold somebody into your what you want, into your reality of how they should function with you, when that is not possible when you're dealing with someone who has already formed a personality and a way of operating. Now, if you're dealing with somebody and there's a conflict, or the fact is that that person is interested in somebody else and you want to draw them away, but it's basically a good person, that they're willing to commit to somebody but not to you, well, that may be possible in relationships. But trying to take a person who is a player, a person who's never had a relationship and they're almost 60 years old, and then think they're going to commit to you, and people that have problems in general of the way they operate, that they have a lifestyle of basic promiscuous internet activity, meeting people or picking up people at their local bars or whatever, and this is their lifestyle, and they've spent 25, 30 years perfecting how to live in this lifestyle, you're not going to change that doing anything. There's absolutely nothing that could change a person's personality like that. Plain and simple. Now, as difficult as this is with people who get stuck in relationships, and I've seen this on every level, from men and women, that for some reason, and mostly because of their own insecurities, which force them to somehow hang on to the past dream. As far as I'm concerned, it's like falling in love with a prostitute and somehow thinking that you're going to turn her into your wife, or like so many stupid males do. They try and date strippers by paying them and then telling them about their lives. I mean, how pathetic is that? And there are guys that actually think that they have girlfriends there that they pay. It's unbelievable the way that people act. So, it really gets to the point of how mentally debilitated you are personally. Now, trying to go after someone that you are infatuated with, interest, even if they're a troubled person, and using the many magical abilities and formulas to do that is worth a try, but it's not basing your life on and self-destructing yourself. In general, though, it's better to start on somebody new, where you don't have baggages and you don't have problems with them to that extent. Now, there are some things, if you break up with someone, a past relationship, and it's been a period of time or something, and you want to reunite with them and they're still around, well, I mean, these are the things that make sense, because you're not changing somebody's personality. Of course, that relationship will never work unless you resolve the problems that broke you up in the first place. But this isn't about changing somebody, ultimately, their inner being. It's not about changing their whole inner being. It's about getting together and working together, and potentially, you've already had problems though, so you already got 2 strikes against you. But it's potentially something you can work out. So you have to look at every case, but you have to really be serious of what these things, the outrageous things that people put up with the attitudes from others is just really staggering. And, it gets to the point that, if you have that low of self-esteem and you have those problems, you've got some really serious problems here. And you certainly shouldn't be getting into a further problem. I mean, you're already in quicksand and you want to push yourself deeper in it. And that's where a lot of people want to go. And that's not how it works. Magic cannot make pigs fly. So there are limitations to everything. And that is the reality of it, of dealing with your particular place. This is what deals with what can I manifest? Where's the hang-on principle here? You need to hang on something. It's like trying to manifest you don't even have a car. You work at a minimum wage job.
Well, I want to get a Ferrari.
Well, you're lucky if you can get a bike. Do you really think that you can manifest that just because you have magic? Can you manifest transportation? Can you get a decent car? Can you get a better car than you normally would get without the use of magic? You're damn right you can. You can get a much better car with the use of magic. A car maybe that won't break down every 5 minutes, that you have to spend thousands repairing. If you empower it, if you do it, you'll get yourself a decent car. But it's not going to be no Ferrari. Everything within perspective, everything has to hang on something, and you have to empower yourself to do it. But you're not going to change the personality of a person. That cannot be done. If it could be done, as I've said, you would be the richest, most powerful person in the world. It doesn't. People have personalities. And what I've seen from people that I've seen for 20, 30, 40, 50 years now is that nobody changes. They may have gray hair. They may be a little fatter. They may be a little thinner. They may have more experiences. But ultimately, when you think about where they were 20 years ago and where they are today, in some instances, they're even worse. I mean, look at the progression of how people even think. And the point is that people are supposed to start off in life, and this is the typical scenario that people go through. I actually went in the opposite direction, but of course, I'm special. So the idea is that they start off and they're liberal and they're rebelling against, I hate the system, man. Let's burn down the college where I need to get my education so I can go into the system and be part of them and make money. Well, quite frankly, I never understood that, particularly when you're young and powerless, to be fighting against the system you're so dependent upon. Doesn't make any sense at all. And then what happens when you get nice and old? You start saying, I was a fucking idiot. I should have been licking ass from the beginning and saying how wonderful the system was. After all, it's everything. Like that little freak actor. Dennis Hopper from Easy Rider, who in an interview before his death stated he voted for George Bush twice. And I voted for him right after I was stoned out of my mind on the weed, man. Because I'm a revolutionary. I vote for George Bush. I mean, that's the kind of completely evil, screwed up thinking you could possibly be. Or Jane Fonda, who becomes a born-again Christian after her psychotic ragings against the Vietnam War, not to the point of being against the war, but be helping the enemy sitting behind gun turrets, shooting and murdering our boys. But of course, she loves Jesus now, because she's close to death, and she's the dumbest fucking rock in the world. So, it's very interesting when you start looking how people progress. So people basically, as they get older, get stupider. You can pretty much equate conservatism with stupid. Because basically it's about,
my grandfather used rocks to beat himself in the head with, and that's how we did things. And we were very happy with that. My grandfather was a great man.
It's just unbelievable. So if you're stupid or conservative, you have regressed in your thinking that somehow cavemanism was the best way to go. And we had fire 24 hours a day. All we had to do was sit in the cave and throw rocks on there and occasionally put a piece of wood. It was beautiful. Look at this fancy nonsense. We got housing, we got furnaces. Oh, what is this? We don't need none of that. I mean, this is the kind of ridiculous thinking of how people work. So if you're progressing with a basic mind that goes from kind of silly revolutionaryism, of rejecting things he's so dependent upon, instead of working in the system and changing it, and then the system makes him their lackey whore to actually destroy all the people that he originally was and actually support them in their destruction, like Mr. Dennis Hopper. Unbelievable. So you're really going to change somebody's attitude? They're going to act different towards you because of what reason? Now, you've got to understand that it doesn't work like that. You don't possess people and make them into robots, which is what you're trying to do. You influence, you push, you kick, you shove. All of these are effective for short periods of time. That person then Easter has to come around because they wake up to the value of being involved in whatever that is or that relationship, or they are hopeless and worthless. And generally when something goes wrong and it's broken, you can't fix it. When it comes to relationships, it doesn't work. I know very few people that have fixed anything. People stay together in certain situations because they have no choice. They don't have the money, there's problems, and that's it. And nobody's ever happy, and nobody really gets past that point again. So it's very, very important to understand that if you're trying to work in a relationship situation in particular, but trying to get things that are ridiculous to obtain, which is trying to obtain huge amounts of money when you have no way for that money to come to you. There has to be an opening. You have to go through some channel which you draw those energies from that normally is there. And everybody has a channel with a certain amount that can potentially come to them, particularly when it comes to money sources. If you're someone who's dealing in millions, you can make hundreds of millions. If you're a person who's dealing in hundreds, or you have a standard job, things are going to have to come to you in odd ways. And that channel that you have open to you is much smaller than it is somebody else who's able to draw in large amounts of money, usually through disreputable ways, I must add. Nobody's happy making money the average way. They have to screw everybody because they need more and more. But in general, you're not going to be able to change a person, just like opening that channel for you is going to be limited by your capacity to draw things. So if you have a business even, it's unlikely that business can necessarily, unless it is within that business's scope, get out and get a contract or business. You can go out and get a particular job or whatever, make $2,000-3,000 more, or get an order for $2,000-3,000. The point is, it's unlikely you're going to get an order for $50,000, $100,000, unless that's possible within the business structure. But if you're a business that your average contract is $5,000, you can use magic and maybe get contracts for $10,000 for a while. But you're not going to get a contract for $100,000. It just doesn't work like that. Those are rare, extremely rare. And when it comes to people, you cannot change people. You can push and shove and try and amplify their feelings towards you, isolate them from other people, stop their affairs for periods of time. But a person who has a lot of affairs, you're going to break up one and they're going to go right to the next one. It really doesn't matter. So all that is a very dangerous situation to start banking. And what happens with people when they start getting into relationship situations is they let the rest of their life go to shit. and their financial life goes down, their health goes down, they're pining away in a self-destructive, masochistic way after someone who could care less about them. I've seen both sexes do this on many levels, and it's just unbelievably self-destructive. So, and to think that somebody's going to come in, whether it's the guild or someone else, who's going to really take advantage of you and take a lot of money from you because they're going to promise you things that they can't do, you are going to be harmed in many ways. So it's very, very important to understand that pigs don't fly, and magic ain't going to change that. So with that, there is no reality until the occult scientist creates it. Question everything, believe nothing, and let the guild be your guide.